Wendy is with us in studio today, and we are going to talk about how bed manufacturers handle customer complaints and a couple of the common strategies for ducking accountability, shall we say, which are not compliant with the Consumer Protection Act. Before that, we've got a quick flight cancellation story to share with you. Still a very relevant topic in the midst of global airline turmoil, thanks to the war in the Middle East. And then I hope we'll have time for some open line calls as well. Wendy, great to have you with us as always.
Yeah, and great to be back with you, Pippa.
Thank you. So if you do want to join the conversation, make a comment, share your own experience or ask a question, a reminder the WhatsApp line is 072 567 1567. Before we get to the beds, Wendy, you wanted to share a travel story with us.
Yes, indeed. So how it works with these cancellations is that with the conflict going on, is that if you decided that you didn't have this inclination to go to Dubai or wherever because of the conflict in the Middle East, but the planes were still flying, then the normal cancellation penalties would apply. So there would be a deduction from what you paid. Mm-hmm. However, if the airline cancelled the flight, then you would get a full refund. So Caitlin of Newlands contacted me a couple of weeks ago about a booking.com complaint, and I've had some success in other cases,
not so much
with booking.com. So her family booked 5 flights on Emirates on her husband's booking.com account.
Sorry, excuse my ignorance. I didn't know you could book flights
Nor
on
did
booking.com.
I said to her, why didn't you just book directly with Emirates? And she said, because it was quite, well, there were some links, but she said, well, we booked all our accommodation with them and they offered it. So
there are discounts. I got a message this morning saying that my level had been upgraded because I'd reviewed the places I'd been in Paris. So I think there is some benefit in terms of a cost saving. But there we go. So you can actually book flights through them as well.
Can.
Whether you want to or not, have a listen to the next story and tell us.
So the flights were 4th of April, Geneva, Dubai, 9th of April, Dubai, Cape Town. And on the 18th of March, Emirates issued a statement offering customers a full refund for any flights cancelled with a departure between the 1st and the 15th of April.
So that should have fallen squarely in the middle.
Exactly, squarely. So they were due a full refund. The husband, Caitlin, told me her husband began a chat on the booking.com website. And according to Caitlin, the agent did disclose to him that he would incur airline fees on each flight of around 8,000 Rand per person.
Oi.
Not knowing any better, she told me, he believed that was standard and agreed. But of course, when he got off that session with Booking.com and relayed what had happened to his wife, she said, absolutely not. This is what Emirates has said, and so we're entitled to a full refund. We immediately started a chat with an agent again, stating that the Emirates refund policy, as they had shared it, and shared a link to their website. We were told to simply wait and see what the refund would be. And what that refund did turn out to be was 40,000 Rand less. In fact, a bit more. The deduction was 8,000 and something Rand per ticket.
And there were 5 people, so over 40,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's why she asked me to take up her case, because she said Booking.com will not accept any responsibility for this shortfall. We've started new chats upwards of 10 times. There's a different response every time and not a single one with any ability to solve the problem. It's impossible to get through to an actual person on the phone. You can talk to an AI bot. There are no email addresses. Escalated queries go nowhere. I contacted Emirates, said Caitlin, who agree that we are not liable for airline fees at the time of cancellation, but they've referred me back to Booking.com for resolution. She says, I have a scant record of the many conversations that we've initiated with Booking.com because the only way to chat to them is via their live chat facility on their app or website. And as best as I can tell, the consumer, and you and I have spoken about this, Pippa, the consumer cannot see this chat history anywhere on their profile. We've received 1 email from them over the course of this month, and our replies to that have gone unanswered.
So to your point, Wendy, A, this is not the first time we've spoken about issues with Booking.com. B, it's not the first time we've spoken about this huge frustration of platforms only offering the AI bot or the online chat or the online contact form, no actual human being. So it's not our first rodeo in this particular arena, is what I wanted to say. No. My one comment is I have now taken to photographing the screen of the online chat conversations so that I have a record of some sort.
That is excellent advice, and it's easily done. So do that.
And just stick it in a folder on your computer somewhere and forget about it. But that because I had to do that a few times with booking various things for my recent trip, and I just literally took photographs
Yeah.
of my screen
Create your own evidence.
to create the evidence of that record.
Yeah.
Okay, but because we've dealt with Booking.com issues before, you did have a media contact to pursue. What happened when you contacted
Not
them?
a specific person,
Okay.
just the global media address,
Okay.
which I've had mixed.
success, yeah.
So sometimes a response, sometimes not a response to me, but the complainant gets back to me to say thank you so much, it was sorted.
Okay.
And other times just completely ignored. But it's been better lately, which was great in this case, because I started off by saying thank you so much for all your help in the past. Say I'm a Cape Town based consumer journalist. Anyway, it seemed to work because I got a response saying we were working on it. And then yesterday I got this. Thank you for your patience as we worked with our customer service team to look into this case with the airline. Even when travel plans change unexpectedly, our goal is to support our customers as best we can. We regret the inconvenience this experience has caused for this family, as it does not reflect the standards of service we work hard to deliver to our customers every day. No specific response to the live chats and the bots and the not being able to
the
get
frustrations that
all
articulated.
of that. But anyway, as promised, said the media office, we've been in contact with the airline to ensure full compensation per their policy. The airline has confirmed that they will process the remaining refund payment, and we expect the family to receive this refund within 4 to 6 weeks. This has or will soon be confirmed to them via the customer service team as well. And Caitlin has got back to me to say, yeah, that's underway.
Okay.
So I'm very grateful that at least I as a journalist can get a response, but it seems quite clear to me, and certainly Caitlin expressed the same, that without the media involvement,
They
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
have got
happened.
their
And
money
that's
back, yeah.
more than 40,000 rand, let's not forget.
So, I mean, the reason we raise it is not just to say, well done, Wendy, for getting a response. It's to
Absolutely.
let you
That's
know
not
that
the
if
well
you,
done, it's just-
if you have booked through a platform like this, know your rights, know that you are entitled to the full refund, and demand.
Just keep going.
Just keep, do not give up. I'm glad to say we've got a positive experience coming through. Janet WhatsApping to say, I had a very good experience with the online chat for getting our tickets refunded. I had booked my tickets to Istanbul through Travel Wings, and through the various online chats, they got me a full refund from Emirates when I cancelled my tickets because of the war. It took about 4 weeks, but it has been paid out now.
Okay.
So that's fantastic
It
feedback,
is good
Janet.
to know.
Thank you.
I think my advice would be, as you know, especially given what happened to me on my recent return from New Zealand, I would not contemplate buying, especially if you've got several legs. If you're going to, directly to a destination, there's less that can go wrong. But if you've got several legs, I wouldn't contemplate doing it without an agency. But then you must ensure that that agency or agent is going to be available to you. Different time zones.
Yeah, that's a good
allowing
point.
that they're going to be available to you when you missed your flight through no fault of your own, when you need to change, when things. If you can't get through to the platform on which you booked, and you cannot go directly to the airline because you booked through another platform, that's a problem.
Yeah. I
That's a
take your point. With so much uncertainty at this time, this is perhaps more than any other time the time to consider having a professional intermediary helping with the bookings here.
And one that's going to be available to you.
And particularly if I'm going to add to that a word of warning, if you are traveling within the next week or two through Europe, which has just introduced the new biometric identification system at its airports. It's very hit and miss. And I, having listened to travelers who were with me on the tour I did in Normandy, Wendy, some of them had really close calls, catching connecting flights. Some of them had queued for 4 hours coming into Charles de Gaulle. I walked through in 5-10 minutes with no issue whatsoever. Flights were delayed out of Naples, etc. So
On a South African passport.
nogal on a South African passport. Yeah. So if you are flying through Europe in the next week or two, please bear in mind,
Great
leave
advice.
extra time for navigating the airports, because they are introducing this new system which requires you to have your fingerprints taken and a photograph taken, etc. It just seems to be, Charles de Gaulle appeared to have just put it all on hold because none of the machines for the biometrics were operational when I walked through.
You just
It was
test
all
these
just done
things
manually.
before?
Anyway, so it seems to be very, from one day to another, from one airport to another, a different story each day. So my advice would be just leave extra time.
Lots of extra time.
Lots of extra time. Okay, well, thank you. And Caitlin, so glad that we were able to help in getting the situation resolved and that you got your money back. And I hope you're able to take the trip another time and enjoy your holiday. Right, we are going to move then on to our main topic, which is how the bed, and we're talking here the bed and mattress industry, basically, how they handle customer complaints, and particularly some of the excuses that some operators are using to avoid accountability when there are issues with a product, which I think in some cases could be described in summary as Consumer Protection Act. What Consumer Protection Act?
Exactly.
Because Wendy, before we look at the case study today, let's just set the context here. We're talking about issues around warranties offered to customers on their purchase, which are very clearly articulated in the CPA, and also the fact that things change considerably once you hit the 6-month mark. After purchase. So let's start there.
Okay, so this would apply to anything that you're buying. There's, you will, with electronics, with beds, with whatever, the manufacturer will offer a warranty. With tires and beds, they're very long, but they're very conditional. So they, understandably. But what you need to understand is that what's implied, it's actually called an implied warranty, Section 56 of the Consumer Protection Act. The first 6 months after purchase, that's if you take it from the shop, or delivery, if it's delivered to you, belong to the Consumer Protection Act, Section 56. And that essentially says that if you buy something that is not of acceptable quality, that fails, develops a defect, whatever, within 6 months of it being delivered or sold to you in the shop, you have the right to return it, and actually the Act says at the supplier's cost, for your choice of a refund, repair, or replacement. Right, okay. There is a but, and that is specifically with electronics, but with all goods, the retailer is entitled to send it to the supplier for a technical assessment to rule out user abuse. And this is where things start becoming grey, because typically with the bed they'll say you did not treat it in the correct manner, and that is an exclusion in the Act, because obviously if you manhandle your product and it develops a problem, it's not a defect, it's because it's your fault.
So if you dropped your laptop and broke something inside it, that's your fault, not the supplier's.
You can't claim that it was a defect and demand a refund.
I'm starting to imagine, sitting here trying to imagine how you could mishandle the bed, but maybe that's a conversation we'd best not go into, Wendy.
Yes, there is that, but there's also, they'll say things like, you obviously sat on the edge of the bed.
Well,
and
of course
that caused the problem,
on the edge of the bed.
And you shouldn't do that. And so there's a lot of things, but then there are other things like, oh, you see this little stain here, whatever the stain is. You could have had your child on your bed with you, and okay, so then there's no warranty. Now they put that so from month 7, the manufacturer's warranty will kick in, right? Yeah. And I've always said they can put on whatever term and condition they like, because it's not legislated. And I was put right on that, actually, by Lee Subrati, who's a friend of the show. He's the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud. And he said, actually, you're forgetting about the fact that there's another part of the CPA that says terms must be fair. They are illegal if they are not fair. Okay. And so he was saying with the going off script a bit, but if he was saying with a stain on a mattress, you've got to have causation. Otherwise, it's a cosmetic issue, and you can't say, well, the warranty, even if it's more than 6 months old, beyond the CPA. He's saying, well, you would have to, the supplier would have to prove causation. If the structure of the mattress completely fails, and there's obviously no way you could prove that your toddler's little lack of bladder control had anything to do with that kind of thing. So that's really interesting. But what are we talking about specifically here? Your rights are completely supreme and golden in the first 6 months. But from what I can tell, having dealt with a lot of cases, that they often imply those, there's a stain. Look, our warranty says if the stitching comes loose in the first 4 months, we don't cover it. No.
So they're throwing in their own terms and conditions which are not compliant with the CPA. Yeah. So, that's a very important thing you've said there, that they have the right to set their own terms for the warranty after that 6 months is gone. Yeah. Before the 6 months, you are completely governed by the CPA.
Yes.
But even after that, what Lee is saying is those terms still have to be fair. So it's
Yeah.
not fair to say, oh, we can see you spilt a cup of coffee on this mattress, therefore we are not going to honour a return
And
because the springs are poking out the other side of the bed.
Exactly. Or it's turned into a complete hammock. You and your partner are
Rolling into
together.
each other in the middle of the night.
The other, and this is a show for another day, but the other area where I see this a lot is when there's a failure with the cell phone, and they'll either in 6 months warranty or beyond, there's scratches on this phone. Now,
it's got nothing to do with what's happening inside here.
Yeah, but it's rough in that industry as well. And I think there should be more pushback, frankly.
Okay, so after the news, we're going to hear from a complainant who encountered this, that tried to take issue with the bed that wasn't performing as it should have done and got all kinds of runaround around terms and conditions in the warranty that shouldn't have been there. And we will share her experience after the Eyewitness News. If you've had experience with this, of trying to return a bed or mattress where things are not working as they should, and being told, sorry, you'll note in the terms and conditions that because there's a stain on the mattress, we can't take this back, for example. Please do pop through a WhatsApp on 072 567. Within the first 6 months of a purchase, the CPA is pretty clear. If something goes wrong, if the product is defective or not fit for purpose, you have the right to return it for your choice of a replacement, a refund, or a repair. I always forget that one.
3 R's.
Yeah, the 3 R's. And really, a lot of the problems tend to creep in after those 6 months have passed, where all kinds of terms are added into the warranty that you might think, okay, well, it's their warranty period, so they're right to create those terms. But as Wendy reminded us before the break, the Consumer Ombudsman is very clear that the CPA also says that all terms and conditions need to be fair to customers. And some of the T's and C's we've heard about, for example, will say, well, you can return the mattress but not the base, or vice versa, or that they'll void the warranty if there's a stain on the mattress, even if the issue with the bed is at the other end of the bed from where the stain is located, for example. So absurd things that are patently not related to the nature of the problem. Now let's bring in our case study in this point. Zandre and his wife purchased a new bed some time ago, and Wendy, let me let you tell us a little bit about the backstory here before we talk to Zandre.
Okay, so newlywed couple, they spent 8,000 Rand on a bed at a retailer in Somerset West, Beds from Home, and the bed began to sag in the middle within 6 months. So that scenario I was talking about earlier, where you shoved together,
roll towards each other.
And when they reported this to the retailer wanted to charge them a 350 Rand collection fee to pick up the bed, and then also said, by the way, in terms of our terms and conditions, the base is excluded from any warranty, and they bought this bed as a unit, the base and the mattress. And they were also told this: it was a trifecta. I note a large stain on the panel in the center of the bed. This is deemed as negligent behavior and will impact your guarantee and warranty. Clients are advised to purchase a mattress protector to prevent this. The absolute goal.
Okay, so there was a lot to be concerned about, and let's bring Zandre in at this point. Zandre, thanks for your patience waiting through the news there, and thank you for joining us on the show this afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, so Zandre, so you bought the bed in June of last year. How quickly did you notice that something wasn't right?
Well, I would say it was between 2 and 3 months. It felt like the bed was sagging. We were rolling close to each other into the center line of the bed. But it became worse and worse over time.
And then the base as well. What was going on there? This is Wendy. Zandre, welcome.
The base as well. So over time, the base started to feel. I looked at it. Actually, it's actually just a bunch of pinewood panels put together with nails. So after some time, the bed started to feel unstable, and the panels were making a lot of noise and so on, even if you just move a little bit on the bed.
Creaking.
Okay, so creaking noises from the base and sagging in the center of the mattress. And as you said, Zandre, that started well within the first 6 months guarantee period, a warranty period that you're entitled to utilize within the Consumer Protection Act. When you went back to the store initially to tell them that, what was their response?
Well, their response was first, that it was after the 6-month warranty period, but they will send someone. I have the option so that they can come and collect the bed, the mattress, and then they'll check it from the consumer perspective and see if there's any defects and let me know. But I will have to pay a 350 Rand collection fee.
My understanding was that it was just within the 6-month period. Is it not true that when you first alerted them, it was actually within the 6-month period from the date of delivery of the bed?
Yes, it was within the 6-month period of the bed when I sent it to them by email.
Just to put that clear.
Communicated afterwards.
Oh, no. So it's from the time you reported.
Yes.
For the benefit of our listeners.
Okay, so within rights of that first 6 months, you also shouldn't have been told about a fee to collect it, Bet. I think Wendy, I think you said earlier that the Ombud was very clear that
the Act is very clear. It says at the, that it's for the supplier to pay for the cost of getting the bed back, but he gives it to me and gives it to us in full language a little bit later. I'll quote from that.
So Wendy, you took this up with the company. What happened?
So I, kudos to Zandre, first of all, for knowing his rights, looking them up and presenting them accurately to the store. I sent a media query. A company rep responded to both of us in the same mail, offering to uplift the bed without the payment of the 350 Rand. But there was this line which was directed at Zandre. As discussed, the terms and conditions that came with your tax invoice do have to be adhered to. And I think that was a line that says there is no guarantee nor warranty on bases. Only mattresses carry a warranty or guarantee, which is, and I said that's definitely not
compliant. Surely that's not fair,
of
Wendy.
Of course, and it's not fair either. And I pointed out to her that a term or condition in a company's contract is invalid if it doesn't comply with the CPA. You can't just insert something. Some of in the car industry, they'll say this. I understand that there'll be no comebacks on this car, that it's basically footstots. Well, you can say that, and even if the person signs it, you can't take away their legal rights in terms of the CPA.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then things changed quite fast. Zandre, tell us what happened, please.
Can you please ask me a question again?
After I pointed out that they couldn't say there's no warranty on bases, and that this was a CPA claim, you were then contacted and told what was the new approach?
The new approach was they still came and collected the bed. How that was, they collected the bed. They sent it to the manufacturer, and he did a number of tests, opened up the mattress to see if there's any problems. And then then I got a call, I think a couple of days later, and say they're back with the bed and they couldn't find any defects, and I have to open up the gate. So unfortunately, I wasn't even home at that time, and I told them, I'm not taking back the bed. I don't care what your assessment was. According to my rights, according to the CPA Act, I can choose either if you can replace or restore, or otherwise to get a full refund. And I think at the very end, they actually just wanted to send me another bed, and I said no, and I lost faith in the company, and I said I would rather just claim my refund back.
And you got it.
Have you received that refund, Zandre?
Yes.
You have?
At the very end, I got it back. It took a couple of weeks, but they did send it to me, yes.
Okay. Zandre, thank you so much for joining us to explain that. And I'm sorry that it took going to Wendy to get the action that was that you were entitled to, but very glad to hear that the refund does finally reflect in your account, and hopefully you can find a more satisfactory bed somewhere else to take home and continue with. Zandre, thanks for joining us. Wendy, the point here is to emphasize that the terms that they were claiming and pointing to in those terms and conditions on their warranty were not compliant with the bigger issue of the CPA saying that any terms and conditions need to be fair to the customer.
they're saying they opened it up and it was fine. Well, if they'd pushed it, I would have said, okay, lodge a complaint with the Consumer Goods and Services Act. They actually will send out their own independent experts to assess, and they have in many cases, because, I mean, it's open to abuse. I'm not saying it happened in this case, but the point is the bed was sagging in the middle. Everyone
After
knows,
3 months,
After
yeah.
a few months. I mean, you open it up and say it's fine. Well, okay, let's have somebody else
Have a look at it,
But I
yeah.
think in the end, he was clearly not backing down, and they just decided to refund. But they're obviously still maintaining the bed wasn't effective, and I get that a lot. And as a goodwill, there's nothing wrong with it, but as a goodwill measure, we'll
refund.
we'll
Yeah.
refund you.
What about their comment that the base that it's a term in their warranty that the base is
No,
exempt from the warranty? Can they do that?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, it's preposterous. You're buying it as a unit. They work together as a unit. You can't. Otherwise, imagine you can throw together any old piece of whatever that won't last 2 months,
weeks,
let alone or 2 weeks. It doesn't make any sense. There was no way that they could legally say, well, the base isn't excluded, because how open to abuse could that be?
Yeah. So Tori writes to say, I would never return a mattress that had been stained. I'm on the side of the supplier, I'm afraid. What would they do with a stained mattress but throw it on the dump? Tori,
It's
the point
defective.
is the stain is not pertinent to the bed being defective.
And anyway, I remember we should have asked Andre about this. He said large stain of absolute exaggeration. It was a tiny, barely visible thing.
Okay.
The point is there's no connection between
Yeah.
the two.
If I would say this, Wendy, if the stain was over the exact point at which the bed was sagging and they
Then
opened
how
up
does
and
a stain cause a structural?
if you'd spilt Coke and the spring
maybe.
underneath it had been corroded, then I would say they've got a leg to stand on. But if it's a T-spot at the corner of the mattress far away from where it's sagging, you're going to have a very hard time proving that the stain caused the defect.
So on that, you will find many of the retailers will say, in order for your warranty to be valid, you have to buy our mattress protector, and use it, obviously, which is very extortionate in my view. And obviously that wouldn't count in the first 6 months. So I would say maybe just do that to protect your mattress anyway. But as the Ombudsman has said, that could fall under an unjust term for any condition, any contract to say, oh, your bed's collapsed. Oh, sorry, there's a little spot here, so your warranty.
It's void,
it's. But I would say if I was buying a bed, I probably would just, for the sake of avoiding drama down the road. And it's not a bad idea to protect your
mattress anyway, because it's an expensive item.
But the point is, in this case, to say, start throwing these things out as get out of warranty excuses. It doesn't wash, but it has become the norm, and that's why I wanted to talk about
To highlight it, okay. So Vusi saying, is there a reason you do not share the details of who the abusive retailer is? Vusi, we did say at the beginning, but in case you missed it, it's Beds From Home in Somerset West that was the company in question here. And if you're going to buy from them, and to be fair, Wendy said to me before that she's actually bought a bed from them herself and slept in it very comfortably. So it's not to say that everything coming from
More
the
than
store
one,
is
in
defective.
fact. Yeah.
But the point is the terms that they are putting out in their warranty are not compliant with the CPA.
They come from the suppliers.
Yeah.
Let's
So
say
be
but
aware of it
yeah.
and push back if they try to invoke
Yeah.
these ridiculous kinds of clauses, not just them or any other retailer.
It's a knowledge is power situation, because if you don't know that they can't do that, and there's no causation, and that's not fair, then there's the base isn't covered by any warranty. Really? I mean, it's.
I just want to actually quote for you what Lee Sabrathi told Wendy when she ran this all past him, because again, this is not her deciding that it's an unfair term. This is from the mouth of the consumer ombud, or rather the keyboard of the consumer ombud. All terms and conditions remain subject to the fairness provisions of the CPA, particularly the prohibition against unfair, unreasonable, or unjust terms. The notion that a supplier can impose whatever conditions it likes after month 7 is incorrect. The durability standard under Section 55 of the CPA continues to apply, and any limitation must still pass the test of reasonableness.
So Section 55 is that consumers have the right to good quality goods, and that will last at least 6 months. But he's saying it doesn't end there. You still can't have really unreasonable clauses that would invalidate even the supplier's warranty.
Okay, and Lee was also quite explicit in saying on the issue of you'll have to pay us to come and collect the bed. The CPA does not state that the supplier can charge for the return before goods are confirmed to either satisfy or fall short of the standards in that clause. If the goods were delivered by the supplier, it would be reasonable to expect that the goods should be collected at no cost to assess whether they are defective. So if they are hit with that kind of clause, please push back on it. Anna messaging on the WhatsApp line to say, I was also told I needed to buy a mattress protector in order for the warranty to be effective. I declined because I had my own mattress protector. I use a duvet to cover my mattress before covering my bed with linen. The shop protector's price was very expensive, is Anna's comment.
Well, the shop would say, well, just the cotton without the waterproof layer isn't sufficient protection. That's what they'll say. But you can buy other mattress protectors that are cheaper. And certainly, if it got to this ludicrous argument about the stain, you could say there's nothing wrong with the quality of this one. As I say, it's become quite ridiculous, and it's become the norm in that industry, so they're in their own little echo chamber of, well, this is the way we do it. And this is just to say it doesn't make it legal. Or right.
Yeah. So please push back. And again, let me just quote what Lee said on the stain issue.
Yes, please.
Sagging would naturally relate to a structural issue linked to durability, not to cleanliness. While the claim of the stain may be made, it would not be reasonable or fair to exclude the applicability of the warranty for a structural issue as a result of a stain.
Yeah.
So absolutely emphatic. It's they may put it in their terms and conditions. It doesn't make it legal for them to enforce them. So please be aware of that. Thank you. Margie's comment is that bed buying in South Africa is an absolute minefield. We bought a Simmons king-size bed for nearly 40,000 Rand and it developed 2 furrows where we lie. By the time we actually got around to complaining, it was past the warranty period. First lesson there.
Yes.
The rep came out and suggested that we should lie or sit on the middle monarchy whenever we can to try and even it out.
I've heard more. That doesn't surprise me at all, honestly. The things they say, the things that I've heard quoted come from the industry. And the thing I really want to say, even though Lee says, fairness still needs to apply to terms outside of the CPA warranty period, is that is your golden period. So don't let these things lie. Sorry.
For the pun,
and don't think it'll get better. And also there is quite a lot of schlep involved, and especially in an item that you're using every evening, to sort of think, oh, now I've got to call them to come get the bed back. Wait, how long is it going to take?
What are you going to sleep on while it's being assessed?
And so you leave it, and then your 6 months is gone. So I would say if it develops a problem early on, report it. Report it while you have that 6-month golden window still open, because it's so much easier for you to get justice.
Okay, I just have to share with Wendy the most priceless meme somebody sent me yesterday after all our conversations about the terrible decline in the flavour and quality of Prorutha. Wendy, somebody sent me a photograph of people standing around a pothole in Joburg pouring their boxes of Prorutha into the pothole as filler.
because one of the complaints being that it needs far too much milk, like twice, if not more, the amount of milk that the old formula needed.
Used to require,
so
to make it palatable.
Turns into a brick if you like turn your head.
I love it.
Please find that for me.
I have found it. I'm going to forward it to you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to say on that note that it's, for those that haven't heard, it's off the shelves. They're going back to the drawing board. They can't change the main thing. The old equipment is gone. This new equipment can't produce the same texture, but they're looking at things that they can change that would affect the texture.
Yeah.
And so I'm told it could be off the shelves for up to 6 months.
Oh, gosh.
While they work on that. So let's hope it's worth it.
Let's hope so. Well, I mean, I was going to say most of the customers wouldn't have been buying it in those 6 months anymore by the sounds of things.
They have to do a big campaign when they bring it back.
Absolutely, to say what's changed. Annette says, a thumbs up to Takealot. She says, over the weekend, there was a one-day only 10% discount, and I tried to use it, but was unsuccessful. On Sunday, I sent an email to the help desk, got an immediate response, and on Monday, the same agent contacted me to inquire whether I'd been successful. On Tuesday, she supplied me with another code to make use of the 10% discount. Now, a couple of things.
One day only or
No, it was a Takealot, a one-day only deal.
Okay.
But what stands out for me there is not only the fact that they recognised things hadn't worked for Annette and they made it good for her by offering her the same discount a day later. But the comment that she says the same agent contacted
that's
me.
lovely.
Wendy speaks to what people are
does.
missing. People are missing the human contact of knowing that one person is overseeing
Got
your
them.
query
Yes.
and is holding this scenario for them.
Thank you, Annette,
Yeah.
because we've had reason and justified reason to air some things that they've got wrong
in the past, so it's nice to
One
acknowledge.
particularly recently around a recall.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate hearing from those of you who have had an excellent experience such as that to balance the scales a bit.
Thank you for sharing, and I'm glad you got to do your 10% off shopping, Annette. I hope it was successful. Okay, not so successful was Grant, who sent me an email saying, I recently placed an order online with Macro. This was on Sunday, the 3rd of May. Now, he says later that same day, the order was cancelled due to the product being unavailable. Now I have to wait for the refund while Macro earns the interest on my money. My core concern, though, is that even after I was informed the item was not available, the product was still available to order online. And Grant's question is this: are there any rules or standards that regulate how stock availability should be managed and advertised? How long after establishing unavailability are companies allowed to continue to take orders? He says, in my personal capacity, I find that more and more online providers will accept payment, then quickly reject orders, but they're slow to update their shopping platforms and refund customers.
Okay, so our Consumer Protection Act and other regulations are vague because they can't apply to every situation. But generally speaking, if you advertise a product at a price so there's two things: one is the wrong price, and two is they're sold out. So the Act says that they've got to make sure that they have sufficient stock to meet the need that they should reasonably expect, given how widely they advertise, given how many people normally would respond to a good deal of that kind, etc. And if there was a complaint lodged with the Ombudsman and they could analyze what happened and establish that, they only made 5 available where they should have reasonably expected 1,000 people to want to buy it, then they would fall foul of the CPA. And the other thing is, if it's a wrong price, which is often the reason why they will cancel an online order, they have to correct the price immediately, as soon as they could possibly do it, so that it's not sitting there as bait for other consumers to order, or them say, well, there's this other thing that's slightly more expensive, or whatever. That's called bait marketing.
Okay.
So they have to correct the mistake as soon as possible. You can't continue to leave it there and give consumers false hope, and then you make them buy it, and then they've got to wait for the refund and all of that. That's obviously really bad practice. Yeah.
Okay, so as soon as possible, obviously that's subject to interpretation.
As soon
Wendy.
as they're made aware of. So if they cancelled your order, they sent you a thing saying, we've refunded you because that was an error. It wasn't 15 Rand, it was 1,500 Rand or whatever. Then that would stand as proof that they knew at that time. And if you then subsequently saw the product that you were unable to buy at the lower price still on sale at that price publicly on a website or whatever, or in a store, then you could say you knew at this date and this time
that there was no stock left,
and you didn't take steps to remove further advertising. So
and then you could insist on
they would fall foul in that way. And the thing is always just to report it. It's easy to report it to the CGSO,
the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman.
Yeah.
Okay. So glad you asked the question, Grant. And if you feel that, I don't know what the timeframes were in this particular case, so it's not cast in stone that they've got 4 hours to remove it or 1 day to remove it. But if you feel it was unreasonable,
it says immediately.
Yeah. If you went online the next day or 2 days later and it was still there, for example, then
problem.
Definitely pop a mail through to the Consumer Ombud. Okay. Speaking of popping mails through, Wendy, we do have to wrap up, but I just want to finish by reminding listeners, if they do want to approach you with the case, the easiest way to do that is on your own website, which is wendyknowler.co.za, and that's spelled KNOWLER. Just remind us, you've set up, I know after all we've said about online contact forms.
So I've tried to set it up, ask questions that would prompt all the information I would need to send a media query without having to come back. So it's dates, it's account numbers. A large number of people just ignore it anyway, but so be it. It does. I'm grateful to those that do give me the account numbers and the dates. Dates, for example, are very important. I need to know whether this is a CPA warranty issue or not.
Or a supplier warranty, in
order to advise or take up, it just helps to have all the information. And then my last question is, what would you regard as a reasonable resolution? Because what I think should apply is often not what they want. So
Yeah,
that's
and
an
you'll be
important
amazed
question.
how often people contact us with a story and don't say
What they want. Exactly.
Are you
That's
looking
why
for a
that-
refund? Is this a name and shame scenario, or
yes.
are you looking to raise awareness of a particular issue, whatever it may be? So wendyknowler.co.za is the website address. The other thing you can do is send an email to consumer@knowler.co.za. Please do remember to put the words Cape Talk in the subject line and a word or two about the nature of the problem. So Zandre could have gone Cape Talk bed warranty. Great.
Yes.
Great minds think alike. Wendy, we'll see
Yeah.
your great mind. Talk to your great mind again next week, Wednesday.
Indeed.
Keep well
Thanks,
till then.
Pippa.